what's going on, Los Angeles? What is up, and welcome to the Rams Skinny here on the LA Football Network, live on the mightier 1090 ESPN Radio. Joined as always by my co-host Ryan Skinny T. Anderson. I am Ryan Dyrud, ready to talk all things Rams, heading into a beautiful weekend here in the Southland. The schedule was supposed to come out on Thursday. It got pushed back to next week. Next Wednesday is the new release date. Yep, thumbs down. Guessing that's because now every team does a huge release video that they all create, have a lot of fun with it. Our guess is that a team, a few teams, whoever was probably not ready yet, so they asked for that to be pushed back. No idea if that's true or not, but that's my guess. So next Wednesday will be the official schedule, but so because we have some time to lead up for that, today we're going to talk about the 5 games we are most looking forward to in the 2024 season. I mean, we're excited for all 17 games, but these 5 stand above the rest. So we'll get all into that. But first and foremost, Skinny T, what is up, my good friend? How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good, man. I had a brainworm of that 30 NBA players that could just hop right into the NFL. And I was trying to think of an equivalent for us, and I was thinking, who are the best two-way writers / podcasters in the game? And I didn't get very far on that one, but I was just trying to think of something that would relate to us. I'm always trying to think of how NFL football and sports in general relate to just everyday life. And, I don't think there's a lot of great podcasters or media personalities also that are also great writers as well.
This is true. Yeah. Usually it's one or the other, right? Very rarely do you see, I don't say very rarely, but yeah, it's not always crossover. So
you got your Peter Kings, your Tony Kornheisers of the world, but few and far between.
Yeah. Schrager, some of the athletic people obviously do both. It kind of stops there. It's funny because I know now at on the USC beat and some of the others, it's those are all print journalists, and it's the podcast space is very different to them. It's a different world. It's when I talk about we do both, and it's oh wow, what's that like? So yeah, it's a very different thing.
Well, I started off as just a writer for the LAFB, if I should say just a writer, but very, very happily so. And, spent several years honing that craft before hopping on here. And you can attest to this. I've come a long way.
Yeah, I'm in a very, I think it was just a lot more with everyone, nerves when you start and okay, what's it going to be like? And now you're just a natural. You were born to be a podcaster.
I'm getting better at it. I'm still a writer at heart. I'm constantly editing in my head while I'm talking, which doesn't make for the best radio. But I'm getting better, and that's all I expect of myself.
I think you're great. So, but hey, we're always Matthew McConaughey says, right? You're always chasing yourself 10 years down the road, so you're never there yet. But anyway, quickly, show is always brought to you by our friends over at BetOnline. Head to betonline.ag today. Use our promo code BELIEVE. That's BLEAV. Gets you a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Plenty of fun stuff to bet on with the playoffs, NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs. Obviously, baseball's going on. Dodgers are a pretty easy bet right now. But playoff is, that's where the money's at. Or you can bet futures. You can bet Rams futures. We talked about it last show. What we say they're middle of the pack right now in Super Bowl odds.
Yeah,
like that.
Yeah.
I can't remember. I think plus 2,500. I want to. No, that seems way too high. Way too
1,100. I think I saw.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Remember.
But there was
last episode.
I saw an interesting one as Jared Verse as defensive rookie of the year. That might be a tasty one for you bettors out there.
I like that. Or which maybe we could talk about this too. We were going to talk games, but we'll see how the show goes. But CBS came out with their QB rankings, or one of their analysts did, not the entire network, and put Stafford at 16 in his rankings. Yeah. So if the betting world is in on that, then those are some tasty odds. I'm picking Stafford for MVP if they were going to put him that low.
Yeah, I mean there was a time that I think Stafford was a legit MVP candidate last year.
Oh yeah.
100%. Definitely the later part of it. There were some quarterbacks that went crazy last year, so I think he got a little overshadowed. But 16th is just ridiculous. We have this conversation every year, and then he goes out there and he just plays phenomenally. He's tough. He's accurate. He's He throws the ball down the field. He wins games. It's and the big distinction between last year and maybe 2021, let's say, is he didn't really cost the Rams any games, whereas in 2021 there was a couple games where he threw some bad interceptions that flipped those games in the favor of the opponent. But last year he was lights out.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think he was better last year than his Super Bowl year. Obviously his numbers were a little higher, but as you mentioned, there were some costly mistakes. And last year he was running that offense and running this team. And yeah, I just do not understand it, especially if when you look at, okay, we'll go down this little tangent. Why not? So yeah, betonline.ag, promo code BELIEVE. Tell them the guys the Rams going to sit you. But when you look, and we're not even get into the fact that Brock Purdy's 2 or that CJ Stroud, who I think had a phenomenal season, but putting him at 5 already after 1 year feels a little rich to me. But maybe that's just, I feel like you need to prove it more. Jordan Love, again, 10 after, his one good season. But here's the real kicker. Like, okay, let's pretend that their reasoning was, well, Stafford's up there in age, maybe he just doesn't quite have it yet for these young guys. But the fact he's 16, they put Rodgers at 11, who's coming off an Achilles injury, didn't play more than 3 snaps last year, and they put him 5 spots ahead of Stafford. Like, it's, the disrespect is unreal. I don't get it.
Yeah, and it's fine. He's going to go out there and do the same thing again this year, and he's going to look great, and he's going to have an even better running game that's going to complement him very well, take some pressure off his shoulders, so he's going to look even fresher and more accurate and more fierce heading into 2024, I feel like.
Yeah, exactly. And like everyone, as we know, these don't matter. This is some analysts. So it's like, it's just to, get the conversation, get these fun beer debates, these fun bar debates going. But it's just, it's shocking to me if you watch football that this guy, you don't say this guy's top 10. Like, I don't get it. Like, I'm looking at the list again and all this. I'm like, I don't know how he's not top 10. I mean, Kirk, they have Jared Goff, Tua Tagovailoa, Kirk Cousins, and Trevor Lawrence all above him. Even those 4, like, what? And then obviously we met Dak Prescott. Like,
Jalen Hurts is one I have a hard time with.
Yeah, I'm always up and down on Jalen Hurts because there's sometimes you're like, yeah, and there's sometimes like
it's because he's always up and down. I think we saw him when he had very good circumstances around him. He was able to propel that team to the Super Bowl, and but I mean, you take a few of those pieces away, and you get what the results were this year, which he did not look great.
Yeah, exactly. So don't get it, but anyway, obviously. We believe he's top 10 for sure. I think he, as of right now, I'd probably put him 1 in the NFC. When you look at, Jordan Love, as I alluded to, need to see it again. Yep. Jalen Hurts, need to see consistency. Kyler Murray, need to see consistency and health. Brock Purdy, I think is, he's shown quite a bit through now a season and a half. I just wouldn't put him above Stafford yet. I think he's a really good quarterback that's proven that he can actually play, but I'm not putting him above Stafford yet. Yeah. Dak, no. Kirk, I like Kirk Cousins more than most, but no. So I don't know where these. So you're basically at that. You're saying there's every single AFC quarterback is better than Stafford at 16, which is wild.
Yeah, right.
So
yeah, you can't have that. Yeah.
No.
The Brock Purdy conversation is interesting because he's got probably 4 All-Pro receiving weapons around him.
Yeah, and a great O-line.
And and then the Rams have good receivers, Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, nothing to sneeze at, but like that's a stacked offense. That's just like you can stick 30 of the 32 quarterbacks in there and they're going to do just fine.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, I think, what you got to see with quarterbacks is what they do in adversity. And I just don't think Purdy's been around long enough to have to deal with it. Like he had that playoffs last year where, obviously first half of the Lions game comes back. The Packers game was kind of an up or down game, and he had that game when drive didn't play well all game, but play when it mattered most. So he's shown some, but I think that's when you look, and we're getting down a rabbit hole here, but like the big Tom Brady, and I used to be on this side, I've switched now, but the thing was like, well, look at these rosters that the Patriots have. Look at those defenses. Like you could plug anyone in and they would be great. And it's like, well, when you look at like the adversity that Tom Brady and they were able to get through it and to stay at that sustained excellence for that many years, that's why he is elevated. And Aaron Rodgers, like the argument was like, well, think of Aaron Rodgers on those teams. They'd be just as good. maybe, but you don't know with his personality and the differences of opinion. Like I'm not saying he's not a great quarterback talent, but anyway, that's a whole different story. So what I'm trying to say is Stafford's been through adversity, has shown that he can get over the top and lead his team through that adversity. That alone puts him in top 10 for me. So, and then just the arm talent, and I don't care. It's just, to me, it's like, man, the disrespect. I don't get
it. Yeah. And, like I said, we'll take it. It's who cares what CBS thinks is Matthew Stafford? It just creates good conversation, and we can feel like we're right.
Yep. And okay, here's the last thing I'll say, I promise.
Yeah.
Of all 15 guys ahead of him, only 2 have a Super Bowl ring. Pat Mahomes at 1, and then Aaron Rodgers. All other 13 quarterbacks, no Super Bowl ring, and Stafford does. So there's another disrespect checkbox. Like, come on.
There we go. Yeah.
Come on.
He's gonna fuel. It's gonna be fuel for the fire.
Yes, MVP. So all of that to be said, put that MVP vote on Stafford at BetOnline. So there was your nice long justified promo read, if you will. So all right, 2024, the season is coming up, a couple months. Okay, well, sorry, got to backtrack a little bit again. So for radio, we're going to get cut a little short. You have to come watch this show on LAFBnetwork.com or on the Rams LAFB YouTube page. So I already know we're going to go well over the 21 minutes having this conversation, but got to at least mention real quick, Ben Skowronek, initially released, it was reported, then ended up being traded for a late round pick swap with the Houston Texans. So thank you for your service, Benny Sko, but your thoughts on him no longer being a Ram? We kind of thought it was coming. If you listen to our last episode, we kind of predicted this, but I don't know if we predicted it would happen 2 days later.
Yeah, I didn't think we'd see any movement right now in this kind of downtime, but it was obvious that, I think with the additions that they made in the draft in the undrafted class, so Jordan Whittington, first thing I popped into my head when I found out who he was this profile is Ben Skowronek. This makes Ben Skowronek expendable.
Yeah.
So, and you think about Drake Stoops in there as well. Kind of, is he a replacement for Tutu Atwell? Are they going to move on from him as well? I'm not predicting that quite yet, but it's been on my radar that Tutu Atwell doesn't really have a role on this team. So, they can, they're going to keep 6-7 receivers. So this gets them a bit closer to that number. So Tutu isn't necessarily going to get cut, but I'm not surprised. He had good, a really great 2021. Well, he was serviceable in 2021. And so I'm just, as the years progressed, he became not relevant.
Yeah. And I won't repeat everything. We said, last episode, he was kind of that jack of all trades, master of none. And, when you're now no longer needed in all of those various roles you could do, like, what is your purpose on the team? And so, this is, I think, good on the Rams because it felt like now that this is done, a guy that they had kind of been like, all right, yeah, we don't really know what your role is, or we don't have a need for your type of role. So let's give you an opportunity to go somewhere and make a squad elsewhere, because we've kind of already come to the conclusion that you probably won't make this team. So instead of having you work your butt off and wait it out through training camp and then having to cut you, like, let's go have you be on another team where either you're already kind of guaranteed a spot or you have that opportunity to truly make it, because, we're deep at this spot now. So, I think it's good on them to make this move early. If people are wondering, well, why now? Why not through training camp? Why waive them then? It's probably more about and again, I'm not talking inside the building, but my assumption is it's more like taking care of the player as opposed to, kind of screwing them over. And when those cut days come and all of a sudden there's an influx of 150 players out on the open market, you lost in the shuffle. Whereas right now, his was the only name out there on Thursday. And so the team came calling, Houston Texans.
Yeah, really great landing spot. A lot of fun in that offense. And that's a stacked room as well. So I hope he finds a nice roster spot there. And just to kind of throw this out there, people don't really think of it like this, especially fans, but 53 people on a roster, each one of them has to serve a purpose.
Yeah.
If you're just kind of wavering out there, as in that, unknown zone that Ben Skowronek was in, I mean, 53, it's not a lot of guys.
Not a lot.
And a lot of competition out there. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So,
don't hold on to any of these guys too tightly.
yeah, the Rams have proven that. They. I think they take care of their guys, but it's also they're one of the most like business organizations of like, hey, we're just when it's not right for us, we're going to move on. I mean, look at Van Jefferson, look at Cam Akers, look at Todd Gurley, you can go all the way down the line, and
2 years later, he might be right back with the team. So
yeah, exactly. So I don't think they don't burn bridges. At least it seems like so. So Benny Sko going to hang out with Bobby Slow down in Houston. Bobby Slowick is their OC. If no one caught that, but anyway. All right, let's move on to the games.
Yeah.
2024 got some good gems here again. Schedule coming out next Wednesday. We'll obviously have a full recap of the schedule. We'll see what the Rams schedule video is. It was decent last year. It wasn't the best, but it wasn't certainly the worst. So we'll see how it goes this year. But we'll 5 games. Each have 5. Some of those are probably going to be the same. So, hey, if there's 3 of them the same, then we'll each have 2 more on top of it. But we'll give around 5 of the games we're most looking forward to. No divisional games. Obviously, everyone looks forward to the Niners and the Seahawks, and the Cardinals is a nice cheap game if you want to go to that. I don't think anyone ever has that one circled, but it's a nice cheap one to get tickets at SoFi. Sorry, any Cardinals fans listening, no disrespect. Frosty Rucker, former Cardinal, my guy. I'll let you start. Which game, man? I don't think these have to be in particular order, so it doesn't have to be like you're most looking forward to, but what's one of the 5 you're most looking forward to?
Well, I'm going to start with the game I'm most looking forward to. It's the one that's out there and obvious, just hanging out there, just like a big old matzo ball waiting for us. This is Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions fan base did not make any friends in the playoff loss, in the Rams playoff loss,
yes,
just earlier this year. So that just ratchets it up. The fan bases are going at each other. They don't like each other. There used to be a little bit of a mutual respect, just kind of a, hey, we swapped quarterbacks. We'll see how this is going. Rams get that Super Bowl. Detroit Lions are just surging. They're just a monster right now in the NFC. So I'm just, this is the game that stands out to me the most on this schedule. It's my prediction that it's going to end up being a Thanksgiving Day Rams game for Rams Lions game. The Rams haven't played on Thanksgiving Day since guess how long ago?
Oh man, have they ever played on Thanksgiving?
Since 1975. Wow. I can't even count back that far. How many years ago that was?
I thought you were born in like 74.
Shut up. Not that old. Just turned 41 in a few days, though.
Oh, man. Well, okay. Well, we're doing something. I forget that's coming up. But anyway, 1975. Great. That's a good prediction of that being the Thanksgiving game. Yeah, I agree. This is the one. This is the game, I think, on the marquee matchup with how the playoff, with all the storyline, obviously, of Stafford and that, but then just how the playoff game went. The fact that Stafford was booed. You have like the kind of you can call them cheap shot if you want, calls at the end of the game, Lions hitting the non-PI calls. The way that game ended and kind of how things transpired between the fan bases, but also between what seemed like the players, and even in the press conference after with Stafford being asked about the city and basically him just saying, yeah, I miss those guys in that locker room. And he could tell he was a little, whether it's hurt or fed up or, obviously coming off a tough loss too. So a lot of emotions there, but yeah, it seems like this is could becoming what was a mutual respect, as you said, now can become kind of a budding rivalry for however long Stafford's here in LA. And this game's in Detroit again, back in Detroit. So I'm curious, Skinny, how he'll be received, because now it's not a playoff game. I wonder if he'll get cheers this time around, because they made it past the Rams. They, won there. They made it to the NFC Championship game. Obviously didn't get to all the way to the Super Bowl, but I wonder if now there'll be that like admiration up in the playoffs, or it's just hatred now for Stafford from Detroit.
Yeah, just kind of a side note about fan bases. It's there's that old good sportsmanship line that says act like you've been there before. Don't go pumping your fist when you hit the home run for the first time. I would say that the Detroit Lions didn't act like they had been there before,
because they have.
So I think they got. I'm going to root for the fan base, the Detroit Lions fan base, and say they're going to handle it a bit better. They have the emotions. They got the emotions out of their system.
Yeah.
And they're going to cheer them this time. Now, I always root for the goodness to come out in people. But as we've seen with fan bases across time and memoriam, they don't. they don't.
Yeah.
They don't meet the expectations. So, and there sometimes rivalries cross lines, and people get hurt. Don't want to see that. But a great thing about sports is we're able to have these rivalries. We're able to get into heated Twitter debates, and it stops at sports. So if this is going to be a great rivalry for the duration of Stafford's career, maybe longer, I'm all for it. I think, we were talking right before here, I'm done talking about the 49ers and the Rams playing games. Like, I'm so bored with it. New blood. This is it. Detroit Lions.
Love it. So if you're on radio, we're going to take a quick break. So make sure to go check out the Rams Skinny on the Rams LFB YouTube page or LAFBnetwork.com. Yeah, no, I mean, I totally agree. And it's, when else would we be able to talk about the cities of LA and Detroit like feuding? Like, they're just so like different cities, not just in like weather and topography, but in just lifestyle and work style and like everything. They're just totally polar opposite cities. And now it's like there's this like rivalry between the two. And remember when we'll go a little longer on this, but Dan Campbell had that quote. Was it during the off season? I can't remember if it was during the playoffs still or after, but like was asked about, and I'm paraphrasing, but was asked about Detroit, and he's just talking about like, yeah, it's different, man. Like it's blue collar, it's hardworking. Like, it's not like LA where you have the sunshine and the beaches and the palm trees, and everyone out here took like huge offense to that. Like, we got hardworking people, we got this. Like, if I'm being honest, I don't think he meant it like that. Like, I think it's pretty obvious LA and Detroit are very different places. Like, yes, LA isn't all glitz and glam. Like, we know that. Like, there's a lot of not just hardworking people, but there's, struggle and poverty and strife. And just like any big city, LA might have some of the most out there, but it is very different than Detroit. Like, it's not the Motor City here. Like, it's not, we don't get negative degree weather. Like, it's just very different. But it was taken like that because this rivalry is being created. And there's now there's no love lost between these fan bases now, where it used to be like this, oh, cool, we got quarterbacks, let's support each other. And now it's just a clash. And I love it. Like, I love sports rivalries so much. Again, toe the line. We don't need any like violence or anything like that craziness, but a true like fun, heated rivalry. There's nothing better. And so the fact that LA and Detroit have that now, and if it happens on Thanksgiving in 24, we may be in Detroit for Thanksgiving. I don't know if my wife would love that, but just saying, we may be doing that.
Yeah, it's just a short ride over to Grand Rapids, Minnesota. We could meet up with my family, and we could have Thanksgiving dinner. And
there you go, don't you know? Yeah.
Don't you know? Yeah, I guess we'd have to do it on the day after, or day before, or something like that. But no, I think you're absolutely right. The one thing I'll say about LA being a blue collar, hardworking town is there's a reason there's traffic from like 4 o'clock in the morning until 12 o'clock midnight. there's traffic constantly because people are going to work at all hours.
Well, and I think like this, and that's what I think fired people up, which I get. I just don't think he meant it like that. But when you think about Hollywood and the glitz and glam, like, that's less than like 1% of LA. Like, LA is like, you got the shoremen, the longshoremen, which are like work their asses off. Obviously, you got the flower district, you got the fashion district, you got, obviously all of the Inland Empire, you got all these different like coexisting diverse communities that are, construction, all these different types of bases. And so I think when people hear that, they're just like, wow, the rest of the world just assumes we all like surf and drink and watch movies all day. Like, no, me and you do, but no, I used to surf.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. When I moved here, I was like, I got to learn to surf when I moved to LA, but I haven't surfed in a decade. So anyway,
I like to be by the water or on the water, not in the water.
Yeah.
That's my motto.
Well, but okay. Last random story, surfing. I've been surfing probably 6 months out here. One of my first college classes at Long Beach State was a surfing class. That's how I know I was at the right college. Nice. I go to a school called The Beach, and I literally have a surfing class for credits. This is amazing. So I'm out surfing, kind of learning, and I'm sitting out there, and all of a sudden I see this fin pop up. Freaked out, like within 5 feet of me. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, I just started surfing, just moved here, and I'm literally going to get attacked by a shark. And then luckily, like within seconds, I saw another fin and then another fin. So it's dolphins. So then it's like cool. All of a sudden, like, oh, there's dolphins right here. But the sinking of my heart in that moment, one of the most terrified I've been. You just see that fin and all right, that's it. Well, this was fun. This was a good time. But
yeah, number one fear.
Yeah.
Getting eaten by a shark.
Yeah. So anyway, all right, game 2. Am I up?
You're up.
All right, second game. You know, they have a really fun schedule. I think they're away schedule for those wanting to travel. A lot of fun games to travel to when you look at these cities down the list. I won't give them all away yet because they're going to be on mine. But for my next game, I'm going to go with at home the Buffalo Bills. A lot of good home games. So I mean, their schedule really, there's not a game that you're like, oh, that's kind of a lame game. But you look at the Bills, what they did at our building in SoFi the year after the Super Bowl to open the season. Von Miller had just signed with the Bills, scorning the Rams, if you will. And then they just smoked us. What was it, 31-10 or something like that?
Yeah.
Close to that. They smoked us. I mean, it was never close. And so I think being able to get that redemption, obviously they're a good football team. I think they've lost some. You know, they traded Stephon Diggs. They don't quite seem to be that Super Bowl favorite they were 2-3 years ago. But still got Josh Allen. They still got talent on defense and whatnot. So I think getting that redemption back at home, and wouldn't be shocked if this is the home opener. Like if they just do it again after the last one. I mean, that wouldn't shock me either. So luckily it's at home regardless. They don't got to go to Buffalo in the winter. But this should be a good one.
Yeah. I have that up here just for the exact same reasons, just to get a little bit of redemption, just because, you know, I remember we were doing a podcast, I think, about before this game, like a preview of the game, the 2021 or 2022 game, Super Bowl champions opening the season Thursday night. We thought, you know, I was thinking it was going to just be like a back and forth haymaker fest, just with these two powerful offenses. And this was the first signal that we got that 2022 was just going to be an awful Rams year.
Yeah.
Nothing went right that season. Nothing at all. From they wanted to get Von Miller. They wanted Von Miller back. They didn't get him. That was the first big thing. You know, we think Allen Robinson's going to go in there and he's just going to change. He's going to add this new high point catch, contested catch ability to this offense, and none of it happened. And this was the first one. So I think it would just feel like a nice exorcism to get all of those bad 22 juju out of the system. And you know, great having them back at SoFi Stadium as well. You never want to go to, who wants to go to Buffalo? I mean, I would love to actually visit Buffalo in the summertime though.
Yeah, Buffalo in the summer and fall. Like I haven't actually been to Buffalo. I've been to Rochester, which is like an hour and a half from Buffalo, and it's beautiful. I mean, the scenery there is unbelievable. It's the trees is beautiful. It's not too cold yet, but if you got to play there in November, December, yeah, get me out of there. No thanks. Confines of SoFi sound great. So, all right, so we're 2 for 2. We just got the same 2. So you're up for 3. We'll see if we got the same third one or we switched up at all.
So I'm going to stick in a similar vein as redemption games, but I'm going to go with the home game with the Green Bay Packers is my next game. So last time they faced them was just last year. This is actually one of the great rivalries, I think, for the Rams is going against these Packers teams. Hasn't gone well though. I think they've lost 4 out of the last 5 games against the Packers, if I'm remembering that, including a playoff game where they were bounced from the 2020 playoffs, I think.
Yep.
But last year's game was kind of the nadir of the Rams season, the very bottom where this was the question mark of like, what is happening with the team? They were 3-6. Stafford's hurt. Kyren Williams is hurt. Nothing's clicking quite right. Some fun stuff, but on the whole, it's a 3-5 season at that point, and they go in and they just get 3 points. I think they scored.
Yeah, 20-3.
Yeah, 20-3. And coming out of that game, just the feelings of sadness and ill will and all of that. So I think this one is a chance for some redemption. They're going to come to SoFi this time. But this is one of the historic games for the Rams and Packers. This is the 100th meeting, first time in 1935 that the Cleveland Rams took on the Green Bay Packers. So it's pretty close. I think it's 50, 47, and 2, the 99 games. So with Green Bay having a slight 3-game edge. So, a little history, a little old history, and a little new history, I guess.
Yeah. I bet you no one would have guessed the Rams and Packers are about to have their 100th meeting. Like, that's not, because everyone forgets the Rams, are one of the old franchises dating all the way back to Cleveland and all where they've been about. So that's crazy. Fun fact. So great game. I'm looking forward to it. It's not in my top 5. So I'll switch it up here, but I think it's gonna be a fantastic game. So the one I'll throw out now, and this started off more so because maybe it's just some LA bias that I just want to see this guy play in the pros and against the Rams. But now, based on what they've done in the offseason, like, they're actually going to be a pretty damn good football team. When you look at their offense and defensively, they got some weapons too, and that's the Chicago Bears. And I think the Rams traveling to Soldier Field to face Caleb Williams, number 1 overall pick, USC Trojan for life. How he has progressed depending when they play him up to that point. And then you just look at that offense, man. I mean, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Roma Dunze, and then obviously they added at running back as well. And so it's just a dynamic, and Cole Kmet at tight end. So, I mean, it's gonna be a tough offense. If Caleb Williams is even just like competent as a rookie, like an average rookie year, like we'll say he's like a Bryce Young rookie year, which was bad, but Bryce Young had zero help. If he can even be on that level, like, the Bears are probably a playoff team. If he plays like to what we think Caleb Williams can be, they're like a contender. At least offensively. We'll see how the defense rebounds. But so this could be a game. This is not an easy game for the Rams, which, when these teams were announced, 3-4 months ago, you probably circled that as like, okay, this is probably a win, seeing all the cloud they had at, Justin Fields. They hadn't gotten Keenan Allen yet. They hadn't obviously drafted Roma Dunze yet and whatnot. So, and Chicago, if we do another away game, Chicago's just such a great city to travel to for away games. So, so much fun there. So yeah, this is one of my top ones. I think it's gonna be a good matchup.
Yeah, it didn't make my top 10, but I would like to look at actually into their history as well, because these are 2 historic franchises.
Yeah,
they probably played a good handful of times, but yeah, I mean, this was a 7-10 football team last season. This wasn't like your traditional number 1 overall pick that's taken their quarterback and just hoping they keep him from getting murdered. This is a good offensive line. Great weapons, as you mentioned, and a good defense too. Jalen Johnson, one of the best cornerbacks in the league.
Montez
Sweat. Yeah. And that the defense was their backbone last year, that allowed them to get to that 7-10 record. So yeah, I think this is gonna be another tough game, and in Chicago. So it could be a cold weather game, could be a snowy affair for sure. But my top 10, the next one I have on here, I'm gonna go with out of conference even. I'm gonna go Miami Dolphins.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Just because I'm curious to see what this Rams defense looks like against a possibly high octane offense. And I say possibly because you never really know what you get with the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah,
they've had to tear down a little bit, salary cap reasons, but they still have a lot of speed, still have a lot of playmakers on that team. And I'm kind of curious how this defense is going to hold up against something like that. Now, this is a team that can put up 70 points in a game, but then the following week they put up 20 or something like that. So, that's my main reasoning for that, is I'm just kind of curious, because we haven't seen a lot of offenses like the Dolphins, and the Rams haven't seen them in quite some time. I think talking about historic franchises, these 2 teams have met 14 times since 1971.
Not many.
and once in the McVay era, once or twice, I can't remember. Once, wow. I think.
Yeah. No, this is in my list too. for basically everything you said. We just talked about Chicago and their offense, but we don't know yet what Caleb Williams will look like. Like if he's what we think he's going to be, then that's one of the top offenses in football potentially. We know what the Dolphins' offense can be. We like you said, they lost a lot of pieces on defense. And we'll see what they kind of truly look like as a full football team. But we know this offense is going to be high octane. We know Mike McDaniel and his kind of mastermind offensive strategy. You already have Tyreek Hill and Waddle, and they add OBJ. He's not the old OBJ, but his return to LA. We know how much he loves Sean McVay and the Rams, so he'll be going up against his squad. And he played pretty well when he played against them last year for Baltimore. So so there'll be that, and obviously they have A-Shane and the other guys on that. And Jalen Ramsey returned to LA too. I mean, Jalen Ramsey is still there, and he'll be back in LA. So great game. And you mentioned the offense, and this is like, I hope they don't play them early on in the season because there's so many question marks in this Ram defense. I know we keep harping that, but you want some time to like fill out like, okay, what are our strengths on defense? Like, how are we going to be able to approach and attack teams? I mean, football's a chess match. And like, okay, how are we going to slow teams down? If you got to play the Dolphins like week 1, 2, or 3 with this brand new upstart defense with all these new players, with all these new coaches, like that's when you could have those 70-point games like Denver had against them because everything was so new and they were just not on the same page. So I hope for that sake, the Rams get the Dolphins late in the season when they've kind of settled down and figured themselves out because it worries me if they got to play them early to slow them down. I think the Rams offense will be fine, but I don't know about this defense slowing them down too much.
I was listening to a bit of an obscure NFL podcast. It's called the Home and Home podcast. Two former scouts, coaches, talking football, and the Chris Shula slander on that show was like at 11. I was like,
Oh, wow.
I was shocked. I was like, you and I are a bit, on the skeptical side. We're like, let's see, what this looks like.
Yeah.
And I've heard people say positive things. Cam Lynch, a big fan of his, but I've never heard anybody just take such a shot.
What were they saying?
Like Chris Shula's a Nepo baby. He's just a buddy of Sean McVay. There's not, just the cheap shots, and these two guys I respect a lot. They're actually on our list of people that I'd like to get on the show, and we can hash this out with them.
There we go.
But yeah, really, really smart football guys. But I just don't know if they, we'll see. I guess as I like to say, we'll see what happens in the season. But who are we talking about now?
Okay, so I'm on to my fourth because we both agree there. So, no, that would be fourth. So the fifth and final one. And then if yours is the same, or if you have another one to throw out there. So I will go another home opponent. Hopefully another redemption after losing last year closely. And that's the Philadelphia Eagles. Just another NFC contender, another playoff team. A lot of interesting storylines with them. Obviously, Nick Sirianni and his kind of up and down regime last year as head coach, but then moving on from both OC and DC and bringing in new blood there to run the offense and the defense. Jalen Hurts, we talked about at the top of the show, kind of an up and down quarterback. Like, how really good is he? Is he like a great quarterback, or is he just a very, very good quarterback that can have great moments, but is not a full-time elite QB? Their weapons, obviously, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith are great. But it all comes down to quarterback and what they're able to do. And defensively, they have dudes. They definitely have names, but that defense was not very good last year. And so what would they look like with new DC, which I'm drawing a blank right now, who they hired as their new DC. So I'll double check that maybe while you're talking, or if you see it before I'm finished. Go ahead. Did you find it?
Yeah. It's a young man named Vic Fangio.
That's right.
Vic.
That's right.
And Kellen Moore is the Kellen Moore is the OC.
I forgot they got Vic from Miami. So yeah, Vic Fangio, who, obviously tremendous historic DC, hasn't had the success later on after kind of being with the Broncos and the Dolphins, but we know how good he can be. And Kellen Moore, I'm still not sold on Kellen Moore personally. If I'm just being honest, but I think he'll be better than maybe what they had last year. But still a great game. There seems to be another kind of interesting clash between LA and Philly when you look at cities that are just very different, but also very passionate about things. And there seems to be a brewing rivalry there. Obviously in other sports, I think there's some rivalry stuff, but In football, it seems like Rams and Eagles are starting to kind of, there's been a budding rivalry dating back to obviously Jared Goff and Carson Wentz going 1-2. And it's kind of grown since there. And obviously two of the greats who are maybe the two in terms of just all-time clashes are both retired now, but an Aaron Donald and Jason Kelce going at it in the trenches don't have that anymore. But I think that culture and that vibe kind of spills over, and then the cities kind of feel it. Same thing. There's just not a lot of respect for LA for what like we're known for. And so this will be a fun one.
I hope this game comes early because I am on a Philly is going down. They are trending down in the NFC. I don't think they're going to be very good. They got two rookies that are going to be starting at cornerback. They could be good rookies. They could be bad rookies. We'll find out that. But AJ Brown is fantastic. He's one of my favorite receivers in the game right now.
Yeah.
You lose Jason Kelce, perhaps the best center of all time.
Yeah.
The defense was not good last year, not as good as they were the previous season where they made the Super Bowl. I don't see them. I don't think Bryce Huff, Milton Williams, I'm not super impressed with this. So I'm hoping it's early, and I hope the Rams come out and just boat race those guys and make a statement.
Ooh, I love it. Well, I mean, they should have beat him last year. I thought they played well until like the very end there, but so we'll see. So is that in your top five, or you have another one to round it out for your top five?
That isn't my top five. I'm going another. This isn't necessarily a redemption game, but I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think this is the first time the Rams are going to New Orleans since the blown call, pass interference call that sent the Rams to the Super Bowl and sent the Saints packing. And the Silverdome, the Silverdome is notoriously loud and raucous.
Yeah.
And so I hope for the sake of this game that the Saints fans still hold that grudge.
Oh, they
because
will.
It will be a lot of fun to go to the Silverdome and see that kind of crowd and watch Matthew Stafford shut them up.
They will be. Because I don't think they've been good since. That was kind of the beginning of their like downfall. And then obviously Sean Payton retired recently. Shortly after that, Drew Brees retired. That's right, because they played them there in the regular season, but I think that was before that game. It may have even been the same season. I thought it was after, but this will be their first return since then. And that was on my fringe anyway, just because going to New Orleans is such a fun. I went to a Broncos Saints away game there, and probably a little different. Like the crowd was very welcoming when we were there. Like this whole city, it's fun. I think I told you this before, but like every week for the game, basically the city as a whole, but more specifically Bourbon Street in that area, almost turns into a mecca for the away fans. So I was there for a Broncos Saints game. So the whole street, they had orange and blue flags up. All the bees they were giving out were Broncos, orange and blue. They had like flags saying like "Go Broncos." Like they know it's tourism, right? So they're appeasing to like the away fans. So it's such a fun environment to be in. Like you're away, but you kind of feel like you're home a little bit. The people there are just so nice. The food is great. The stadium is unbelievably loud. It gets so noisy. So regardless, it's a great place to go. I think it will be a little less welcoming because of the history here and because of what happened. Even though it was, some time ago now. But I think there will be some love lost there. The reason why I didn't have it in my top five is just I don't think New Orleans is going to be very good with Derek Carr and who they have. I think they're probably going to be a pretty bad football team. But in terms of traveling to a game, there might not be a better one on the schedule than this one, just because of the way the environment and the fan experience. It's second to none, I think.
Yeah, we've always been threatening to take this show on the road, and you've mentioned Detroit, Chicago.
We may be living on the road this year. Shoot, they play in New York also. Like, it's always fun going to New York and Rodgers at the Meadowlands. Like, there's a lot of good games on this schedule. Like, literally, the only two bad games are Arizona when they play the Cardinals. Those are the only two games where I'm like, eh.
Yeah. Well, the Vegas game is an outside one because there's nothing like sending Raiders fans home unhappy from SoFi Stadium. I was there for the game, for the Baker Mayfield comeback game. I saw a fight between two Raiders fans. They were both women as well, which, fan fights is one thing. Women fan fights, I mean, it was going down, and we caught it live on
Women Raiders. Yeah, we were live doing a recap, and you're like, "Oh, they're fighting right there."
Yeah,
I remember that.
But they were the loudest, most annoying fans in SoFi that I've ever witnessed personally. SoFi has got the reputation; it's there for a reason. There's lots of away fans that show up to the games. It's not a bad thing. We'll flip it. We'll flip it one day with the help of LAFB. We'll get more fans in there. But it was so satisfying to watch them leave SoFi. Just so sad from losing in the last minute touchdown.
So great. After doing nothing all 2 hours off the plane, let Baker bake. The legend of Baker Mayfield played 5 games for the Rams, and he may go down as like one of the top 5 most beloved quarterbacks in Rams history.
We got 5 games. We got to write the song, the ballad of Baker Mayfield.
I love that ballad of Baker Mayfield. And now, now he's out in Tampa Bayfield, doing his thing. So, all right, well, there you have it. Anything else you want to add before we wrap this thing up?
No. Just let us know if we missed any games. I mean, like you're saying, there's tons of great games. You got Vikings on there. We covered the Eagles. Raiders, as we mentioned. Going to the Patriots, going to the Jets. Those are both good games. So East Coast games.
A lot of East Coast. Yeah, a lot of I mean, interesting. We'll dive into more division games maybe here in a couple weeks, kind of what those matchups will look like. A lot of stuff to talk about in the offseason that we'll get to. So, but this has been fun. But the schedule releases next Wednesday, so we'll be back on our normal Monday. We'll do some other content. Don't know what it is now. We'll figure it out, but we'll do something else Monday, and then on Thursday we'll do our kind of schedule recap show. Probably talking a little bit more about the actual Rams schedule release, kind of what it looks like. But then we'll a little bit of the schedule. We basically did that now, but what dates are actually when they're falling and when is a good travel time? Because hey, that game in New England would be another fun one, but if that's in December, we're probably good. I'm not trying to sit out there in the freezing. But anyway,
we could do our way too early win predictions. Who they're going to beat, who they're going to lose to.
That's probably what we're going to do. So probably Thursday we're doing our wait till they win predictions. We'll have actually timing of when they play this team. So look for that. But we'll be back on Monday regardless. But everyone have a great weekend. Thank you as always for making us a part of your day. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for the growth. It's been amazing. If you haven't already, if you're on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe button. This is the Rams LAFB YouTube page, or head over to LAFBnetwork.com or anywhere you get your podcast. Just search Rams Skinny and hit that subscribe button there. For Ryan Skinny T. Anderson, I am Ryan Dyrud. Appreciate you all. Stay blessed. See you all next week.